If they do, it's,
Let everybody else get a seat. What you doing, Mr. Joe?
you know, Jeff will post.
Oh, son, don't go there. Hey, sorry. He didn't recognize you.
It's Linda.
Hi, Linda.
What are you doing?
Nobody puts masks on. I know you wouldn't think. Family comes up in here. I didn't know.
We just wear them all the time at work. Nobody knows who we are.
I know.
Oh boy.
Hey, before we step on that one, that's why I keep y'all around.
That's everybody.
Like this, like,
That's everybody.
Let's get ready, everybody. I'd like to call the County Commission meeting for January 19th to order. Commissioner Simpkins, you lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Lord, be with us today as we take care of business for this county. Thank you for giving us this great day. Allow us to go home tonight, be with our loved ones, be with those soldiers over on foreign land, that you let them return home safely. I'll ask this in God's name. Amen.
Amen. If everyone stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Randy Simpkins,
Here.
Jeff Beebe,
Here.
Dwight McElwain,
here.
Jason Beatty, James Dawson,
Here.
Becky Spicer, Carl Buckner,
Here.
Clayton Ellis,
Here.
David Shepherd, Danny Williams, Linda Hayes, Johnny Reed.
We do have a quorum. First order of business is approval of the minutes of the December 14th, 2020 work session. I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Hayes, second by Commissioner Dawson. Any questions, discussion, or changes? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, business committee reports. Any committees to report? Hearing none. Next item of business is public hearing. The first public hearing is a rezoning request from Jennifer Perkins, 4119 Highway 96, Burns, Tennessee. Tax map 132, part of parcel 021.00, 2.66 acres, A1 agricultural to C2 general commercial district. Mr. Darnell.
Okay, the first rezoning request, hope everybody has their packet. This property is next to Synergy Storage, which is also owned by the same people. If you look at the boundary survey that is in there, the house in 1.01 acres, they're going to divide it off and keep it as A1 agricultural. The remaining 2.66 acres is what is being requested to rezone to C2 commercial. What they want to do, they want to use it to park the trailers and boats and RVs, which are currently up at the front gate, and park them in that back area. This was approved by the Planning Commission on November 12th, 2020 by a vote of 9-1 of one of the commissioners abstaining. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. The public hearing is on this property. Who is here to speak for or against this property? Can I get a show of hands? Anyone here to speak for or against? For, please. Anyone else? We show two. If you come forward to the podium, state your name.
I'm Jennifer Perkins. I'm here to speak for it. I am the owner of the property, me and my husband, and right now we are utilizing space in the front and back of Synergy Storage for RV and boat parking. We think it would look nice to move it to the back so that we can still help these customers and have parking for their RVs. We're always filled up with parking, and then we plan to build out phase 2, which is not contingent on this rezoning, but it would be helpful to maintain a good appearance for the community.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak on this? Hearing none, the public hearing for this property is closed. Item number 2, rezoning request from Adam Jude, Iron Hill West, Highway 46 South, Dickson, Tennessee, map 135, parcel 024.06, 2.25 acres, A1 agricultural to C2 general commercial district. Mr. Darnell.
Okay, this property, as you head past the interstate on Highway 46 South, if you're familiar where Dickson Graphics is, Adam Jude owns that, and they have bought the lot directly across Highway 46, and they want to build a new graphics and retail shop. This was approved by the Planning Commission on November 12th, 2020 by a 10-0 vote with one commissioner abstaining. Mayor?
Thank you. Is anyone here to speak on this for or against? Could I get a show of hands? For or against? Anyone to speak on this property? Let the record show there's no one here to speak on the public hearing. This public hearing on this property is closed. Item number 3, rezoning request from Stephen and Monica Triplett, 3251 Highway 46 South, Dickson, Tennessee, map 145, parcel 016.20.69 acres, A1 agriculture to C2 general commercial district. Mr. Darnell.
Okay, this property is the site of the former Watson Metal out on Highway 46. It was a split zone property with the front 2.36 acres already zoned C2 commercial and the rear 0.69 acres A1 agricultural. The triplets which own this property brought a site plan to the Planning Commission for additional warehousing space. The Planning Commission made the recommendation that they go ahead and rezone the whole property. That way the whole parcel will be zone C2 commercial. This was approved by the Planning Commission on December the 10th, 2020 by a vote of 11-0. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Could I get a show of hands who is here to speak for or against this rezoning? Anyone here to speak for or against this rezoning? Let the record show that there's no one here to speak on this property. The public hearing on this rezoning request is closed. Thank you, Mr. Darnell. Next item of business is elections. Agriculture Extension Committee, the election of Commissioner McElwain, Mr. Ronald Kimbrough, Ms. Connie Hurd, and re-election of Commissioner Spicer and Mr. Todd Berry. I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Buckner, second by Commissioner Simpkins. Any discussion or any questions? Hearing none, all in favor vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item of business is appointments. Planning Commission appointments. Mr. Harold Williams, Mr. Shane Chandler, and Mr. Gary Peeler. I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner McElwain, second by Commissioner Dawson. Any discussion? Yes.
How many people on the Planning Commission are they short right now?
I don't know the answer to that right offhand. We have the attorneys here that dealt with them.
Short
Two. Thank you. Any other questions?
It's not a question, and I don't even know if I should mention it, but I'm not related to this Gary Keeler. I do have a brother who was named Gary who died a couple of years ago, but this is not, I didn't want you to think there would be a conflict.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Commissioner Hayes. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item of business is a resolution to the county, resolution to authorize amendment to the County General Fund, Fund 101, and the Highway Fund, Fund 131, to fund additional compensation to certain county first responders. Whereas it is requested the County General Fund, Fund 101, and the Highway Fund 131 be amended as set forth. Whereas the purpose of this amendment is to fund a one-time pay supplement of $1,000 for each of the county employees listed in Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference the county employee first responders, in recognition of appreciation for their service to our county over the past year as we have confronted the challenges of COVID-19. Whereas during this pandemic, all county employees have continued to serve the county, and when needed, with certain periods being to work remotely or on reduced or part-time shifts. Whereas the county employee first responders served in this position that did not allow for them to work remotely during the periods of time when the county offices were closed, being positions that required them to continuously interact with the general public during a period of increased personal health risk. Whereas the pay supplement described herein is not being paid to any elected county official or department heads for any county departments. And whereas the county legislative body for the county of Dickson, Tennessee has determined it's in the best interest of the county that this request amendments to be County General Fund 101 and Highway Fund 131 be approved. Now therefore it be resolved, the county legislative body for the county of Dickson, Tennessee met in its regular session this 19th of January 2021 in Charlotte, Tennessee, Dickson County, Tennessee, does hereby authorize and direct the County General Fund 101 and Highway Fund 131 be and hereby amended for a one-time pay supplement of $1,000 for each of the county first responders listed in Exhibit A. I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Spicer. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Reed. Any discussion or questions? Any questions? Before we call the vote, I think we have a lot of our first responders, recognize a lot of faces here. We appreciate y'all being here tonight, and I appreciate your service to the community. Any other questions or concerns? Question called for. Without objection. Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate y'all here tonight. Y'all are welcome to stay all night, but you can leave if you want to. So, if they change their mind later on, I'll give you a call. Next item of business is a resolution to authorize certain funds, amendments to the budget established for the county's general purpose school fund, Fund 141, Federal Projects Fund, Fund 142, and or the Central Cafeteria Fund 143. Dr. Weeks, because we're on an odd night tonight, he has a class he teaches. He cannot be with us tonight, but I want to remind you the main portion of this was to fund $675,000 amendment to purchase buses, and the other was to take in the insurance recovery of $1.3 million and add that to revenue. So that's the two items on that tonight. Open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner McElwain, second by Commissioner Beatty. Any discussion or questions? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor vote by stating aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 3, budget amendments, all funds except schools. Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I did send you guys a file out the other night that included Highway Department and General Fund 101. To start with, that did include the essential employees, that the pay supplement the mayor just read off the statement a while ago. It included some other things in there too, such as insurance recovery and that type of thing for patrol cars in the sheriff's department. When there's an accident or something, insurance pays us. We take and add that back to his department for expenses that's beyond his control, that type thing. Now, I handed out a one-sheet page on Chancery Court tonight from Miss Nancy Miller's office. She has some reserve monies. It's code 53400 too, if you want to look at that. I added $1,500 to her $6,000 original budget, so it makes her new budget line $7,500. She has office equipment, computers, when they moved over across the street at the Justice Center over there. They got some new equipment there, but she does have reserve money to increase her budget for that, so it's not coming from tax dollars. So I went ahead and handed that back out to you. And also, the other sheet was Drug Control 122 Fund. That's, I estimated some new vehicles, new cars for the patrols, for the sheriff's department also. So we've been getting cars out of that, and I'll be meeting with the sheriff on Thursday. We'll shore up some discussions on that. Now, I'll be doing quarterly reports next month. The vehicles we've paid for this year actually were from last year's budget, but it's taken the dealerships that long due to COVID-19 to get vehicles built. So we'll probably get these vehicles right here ordered in the next week or two, and they probably won't come in until next fiscal year's budget also. So it's been that type of thing. Order them now, get them 6 or 7 months later. You know, it's kind of beyond our control right now, but I'll be sitting down and talking with him and his fleet manager this Thursday and going over some other things too, just talking with some office personnel with him. But anyways, that's an estimate on 122, $250,000. Each year, the mayor's office has been working with the sheriff's department and getting patrol cars, keeping the fleet fresh, basically. So anyways, those are the two new items you did not get Friday. Fund 122 and Nancy Miller's office right there for her computers.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any questions for Mr. Hall? Any questions for Mr. Hall at all? Open floor for a motion.
Yeah, I've got one. Do we get any funds from any confiscated, out on the interstate when they confiscate money? Do we get any of those funds at all? Or does that go to the drug task?
We get some, Commissioner Eby. I have met once with the director, and so I don't have any exact amount, but there are some shared funds, there are some direct funds, and I'm learning exactly all of that more in detail. So if I do get a detailed question, I'll be able to answer it with some decent sense about it.
Well, if you look at that one page right there we just discussed, where I estimated $250,000 or put for the vehicles and 122 fund, look toward the top in the revenue section of that. It's code 42990, other fines, forfeitures, and penalties. Well, no, excuse me, it's 42910, proceeds from confiscated property. We always start the year with 40,000 as a budget number. We're actually at 80,000 this year already, halfway through the year. Now that number can be 250,000 by the end of the year. But right now it's at 80,000. So I haven't moved that number. That's not a big explosion to that. So, but a lot of times it can really take off. So it can get pretty high. And a lot of times that causes that fund balance to really skyrocket. But right now, 80,000 is not that big a deal. It's twice as much as the budget number, but that's where that revenue number comes in right there. It gets posted to that code.
Any questions on the amendments? I'm sorry, I hadn't got a motion. I need to open the floor for motion. Motion by Commissioner Williams to have a second. Second by Commissioner Reed. Any other questions for Mr. Hall? Hearing none, all in favor vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 4 is resolution to authorize county to enter into one or more contracts with Dickson County Office with Dickson Office Supply for the lease of 4 copiers. Mr. Hall.
I don't have anything to add to that. All this is still the same as 2 weeks ago.
Open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner McElwain, second by Commissioner Spicer. Any discussion or questions? All in favor vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Item number 5 is 2021 Certified Road List. I believe y'all received a copy of this. Mr. Burgess is not here tonight. I think many of y'all probably know his grandson was a little bit of an accident last night, and they spent a lot of time at the hospital. He was burned, but he's doing okay. So he thought it'd be best he go home and catch up on his rest. And I think there's Mr. Hodges here if you have any questions for him on the Certified Road List. Any questions for Mr. Hodges? Motion by Commissioner Simpkins to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Buckner. Any questions or discussion? Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 6 was speed limit reduction on Lakeview Acres in District 11. The two roads in question were Rebecca Drive and Allen Road and Lakeview Acres. After Mr. Burgess looked at it, he determined, along with input from our county commissioner, 30 miles an hour is appropriate. It would match what the city of Dickson has coming off of Blue Road. I think it's Blue Road over there. So, and it would be congruent with that. Open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Hayes. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Buckner. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 7, Magistrate, Mr. Reagan.
This is the same as what we discussed at the last meeting. As you may recall, Mr. Terry Haynes was appointed by this body back in December to serve a 2-year term as Judicial Commissioner. And subsequent to that vote, but before actually beginning to serve the new term at the beginning of January, he gave notice that he was not going to be able to serve during that term, so he resigned. And what's before you now is Mr. Casey Grove. That was an emergency appointment that Judge Monsu made, and so he is asking and recommending that he fill that position. So that's what you're voting on.
Motion by Commissioner Buckner for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Dawson. Any discussion or any questions for Mr. Reagan? Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 8 is the resolution for designation of names of various county buildings. That's the attachment that we handed out. Didn't get any feedback from anyone, so we took silence as acceptance on this. So this is the list we're given. This will help now with the new Justice Center open and with and the reassignment of what all buildings do. The names will be more appropriate to what occurs in each. I know we're gonna have to break some habits of courthouse and historic courthouse and annex and all that, but this will give us a good long-term way to signify the difference between names on each of these buildings. The downtown building is scheduled at this point in time to be closed and moved into the new government building where the library is, or what we would know as the old Food Line building. That should be done on March the 1st. But we were going to go on and make this name change at this time because within 30 days it'll be ready to go and everybody will be in their designated spots. So at this point in time, I'll open the floor for a motion.
I make a motion, but I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Hayes' motion.
This building is going to be the Dickson County Administration Building.
Yes.
Okay, it's gonna take some practice to get used to that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
It's gonna take some practice to
It
get
will.
used to that.
Well, many times I've had to explain the new courthouse was opened when I was a junior in high school, so that's not very new.
Okay.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hayes. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Reed. Any discussion or questions on that list again? I know you presented this 2 weeks ago. Hearing no questions. No questions. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 9 is a resolution to set the speed limit on the county portion of the road known as Sanker Road. I think it's better explained that we had this discussion 2 weeks ago where the new road, Sanker Road, that leaves Highway 96, a portion of that is in Burns. It goes into the county before you get to Hogan Road, and then it's in the city, it's in the county until you get to the bridge that crosses over Lime Kiln / Gun Branch Road. After determination by the Sheriff's Department, Highway, and a discussion with the city of Burns, they are all in favor of setting that speed limit 40 miles an hour on that new portion. There will be proper signage put up on both ends of that road. Burns, is my understanding, passing this tonight, and this is done with Burns' final approval on this. The other deal is we'll have engineering signs, those yellow signs that tell you there's a turn to Hogan Road, and better designate where that is because it's kind of in a turn. So that's what we'll be asking to be done tonight. But Burns is on board with doing this, as we discussed with them 2 weeks ago. Any questions for myself? Hearing none, I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Williams. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Simpkins. Any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item of business, other business. The first business is the rezoning request from Jennifer Perkins, 4119 Highway 96, Burns, Tennessee, tax map 132, part of parcel 021.00, 2.66 acres, 8.1, A1 agriculture to C2 general commercial district. This is your first reading on this. This is to vote to move this to the meeting 1 month from today, which will be on Tuesday, February 16th. And then it'll be heard at the final time on that. So on this, I'll open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Buckner, second by Commissioner Reed. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 2 is rezoning request from Adam Jude, Iron Hill West / Highway 46 South, Dickson, Tennessee, tax map 135, parcel 024.06, 2.25 acres, A1 agriculture to C2 general commercial district. This also is the first reading to move this forward 30 days. Open the floor for motion. Motion by Commissioner Spicer, second by Commissioner Dawson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 3, rezoning request from Steve and Monica Triplett, 3251 Highway 46 South, Dickson, Tennessee, tax map 145, part of parcel 016.20.69 acres, A1 agriculture to C2 general commercial district. It's the same. This moves this forward 30 days. This is the first reading. Open the floor for motion. Motion by Commissioner Spicer. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Reed. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, well, there is no other item under here. Is there any other business any commissioner like to bring forward? That, we're going to save that for last. That's going to be under approval of notaries, be under number 8 there. So we'll get to that. Commissioner Simpkins.
Understand that the planning commission had a vote on the fuel depot, and I think it came to a vote to send it on to us, and I'd like to suspend the rules to discuss tonight.
That's a motion for suspension of rules for the discussion only at this point. Motion by Commissioner Simpkins. Is there a second to hear that? Second. Second by Commissioner Dawson. Any discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor of suspending the rules, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? It's Hayes, Reed, no. Any others? It passes. The rules are suspended for discussion. Mr. Darnell, can you give us a report of what was discussed?
Yes. This past Thursday, the Planning Commission voted 9-0 to settle the Titan settlement. But this settlement also would require action taken by the County Commission to conclude this matter.
Thank you. Is the attorneys, Mr. Potter, or are you just, okay.
I'm happy to speak to it, Mayor. Some members of the commission, as Mr. Darnell stated, action was taken on the 14th by the Dickson County Planning Commission unanimously to approve a settlement with Titan Partners, which would, if approved subsequently by this body, would dispose of 2 of the pending lawsuits that have been filed against the county, 2 writs of certiorari filed by Titan. As a bit of a recap, please recall that our client asked us to enter into Rule 408 settlement discussions with Titan in the fall. We engaged in those discussions with Titan. Those are confidential settlement discussions pursuant to the Tennessee Rules of Evidence. We had executive meetings with the Planning Commission and with you. Those are allowed private meetings between attorneys and clients to talk about pending litigation. Those are exceptions to the Tennessee Public Meetings Act. We've had more than one of those with you, and we've informed you of the settlement negotiations that we have had with Titan Partners. I'll defer to Mr. Reagan and to the mayor about what parliamentary action, if any, you'll need to take tonight if you choose to take action on this, but it's completely your decision. I will say that today, counsel for a small group of people filed an action with the judge. The judge who hears all of these lawsuits is Judge Larry McMillan. He's a chancellor from Clarksville. That is because all of the local judges recused themselves from hearing these cases. That action was filed in an attempt to prevent you from either discussing or taking action about this matter tonight. And the allegation was presumably that you had been engaging in fraudulent and secretive and inappropriate closed meetings and had not given proper notice to the public. Obviously, all of those allegations are false. And later this afternoon, the judge denied that application by counsel. These are not surprising to me because they're certainly no different than the false and defamatory allegations that have been made about the mayor's office, about the department heads in this county, alleging that there's been fraud or criminal conduct. All of you have now been provided a copy of a detailed report completed by District Attorney General Ray Crouch, wherein he reviewed all of these allegations one by one that were made by counsel about alleged illegal activity, and his conclusion was there was no criminal wrongdoing by anyone. So you've seen that. So this is going to continue, I think, until this matter is over, either by settlement or by a final disposition by a court. We are on our way to a final disposition by court. You've all been advised about what the status of that is. If you choose to proceed tonight, Mr. Reagan can advise you about what parliamentary steps you'll need to take, and then Mr. Mills will go through bullet point by bullet point each of the settlement terms so that the public can hear it. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Potter? Any questions? The rules have been suspended to hear this portion. At this point, I'll turn to Mr. Reagan and let him go through the parliamentary procedure. If it's your decision on what you want to do on this, but he's going to tell you the parliamentary procedure on this.
Right, so as a body, if you wish to take this matter up tonight to vote on whether to authorize a settlement on the terms, and if what you're voting on right now is to suspend the rules to take that up, then Mr. Mills will go through those terms point by point, as has been done with you in executive session. But you would be suspending the rules to authorize the county to enter into a settlement agreement on the terms that you have been given in writing and that Mr. Mills will review in just a moment. And at that point then, there would be a settlement agreement that would be signed by both the chairman of the Planning Commission as well as Mayor Ryle on behalf of both of the bodies.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. At this point. So will the commission and suspend the rules to have it on the agenda where it can be where you could have that discussion?
Yeah, I think the way it was worded previously is you were suspending the rules just to have a discussion about it. But I think to be clear, if it's what this body wants to do, is there should be a motion to actually take up tonight the settlement of the two Titan lawsuits.
Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Simpkins. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Beatty. It is a proper motion and second. Mr. Mills?
Yeah, and let me be clear. I think what you're doing right now is suspending the rules to actually take this up. So I think you should have a vote on that. Then Mr. Mills can actually explain the terms. When he finishes explaining it, then if there's a motion to actually settle on those terms, and the terms that have been given to you previously, then you'll have a motion and a vote at that time. So right now, I think you should have a vote that is actually placing this on the agenda for the purpose of a vote.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Simpkins? Is that what your intention? Mr. Beatty, your intention? You have the motion and a second before you. Any questions or discussion? Any question, Mr. Reagan? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Got the same notes, Mr. Reed and Ms. Hayes. Thank you. Motion passes. Mr. Mills?
Ms. Hayes, I think, needs some paperwork. She wasn't here last Monday night.
Okay, I think Mr. Mills, do you have that available tonight?
That's my objection, I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
I understand. So that, if you don't mind,
When I pass these out, give me just a minute.
Mr. Butler? No, second.
Mr. Mayor, may I proceed? All right.
please, Mr. Mills, you have the floor.
Thank you. Commissioners, thank you for your time. I want to go over the bullet points of this summary of settlement terms between Dickson County and Titan Partners LLC. Obviously, at any point, if you need to stop me for a question, please do so. If you have a legal question, we would need to adjourn into an executive session, so I would ask you to hold any legal questions that you have to do so. On page 1, you see points 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Those all address 2 Mile Road and the intersection with Hogan Road. Effectively, what these 3 points outline is that Titan will be paying for all of the improvements to 2 Mile Road according to TDOT standards. They will also be applying for an SIA funding agreement, and that's addressed later in this document as well. If you look at Schedule 1, which is the first exhibit to this, it's after page 7. It's a outline of the 3 sections of the road at issue. On the left side of the map, you see the portion that's in the city of Dickson. Beyond the city of Dickson, you see the portion that's part of the SIA proposed project, and then beyond that would be what's called the county project. But know that effectively, the county would not be paying itself for any of the improvements to 2 Mile Road or the intersection with Hogan Road. In 1.4, one of the items that came before the Planning Commission, Titan has agreed to, within 90 days following the Dickson County school system resuming in-school instruction, they shall submit a full traffic study so that the Planning Commission has a full baseline of the traffic in the area. In 1.5, at the bottom of page 1 and moving on to page 2, there's a reference there to Schedule 2. Those are all the planning staff conditions to approval at all 3 phases of this, at the site plan, at the preliminary plat, and at the final plat. Those were generally generated by the county planner, Mr. Collins, but they've been incorporated into this agreement, and they have been agreed to by Titan. On page 2, section 1.6, Titan has agreed to donate $1 million as a community benefit through the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to be spent by the county for example, the county agricultural center or any other community purpose as determined by the county. In 1.7, Titan has agreed to $400,000 to be used by the county in its sole discretion for a number of items, including a fire pumper truck for the West Iron Hill Road Fire Station, a green foam trailer, and we'll talk about the foam in just a little bit, as well as training fees, travel expenses, and per diem for firefighter training. In 1.8, they have agreed to $50,000 per year for rural fire protection, and that will be as long as the site is utilized as a terminal. In 1.9, you'll notice there's a Schedule 3 in there. That's the last page of the packet that you received. That addresses the Fussell property. It's property out there. It's approximately 9 acres. 1 acre of the Fussell property is going to be deeded by Titan to the Water Authority of Dickson County per their request for a proposed new water tower. The remaining approximately 8 acres would be deeded to the county directly. In 1.10, they're going to comply with Section 2-104.1 of the subdivision regulations. They'll also, of course, comply with all other sections of the subdivision regulations. 1.11 and 1.12 addresses bonds on the different sections of the roads. Of course, they will have to maintain bonds throughout this process, and that would be monitored by the Planning Commission. In 1.13, Titan will comply with all applicable requirements imposed by TDEC and TDOT, and that's just been incorporated into this agreement. 1.14 addresses the green foam that we were talking about earlier. This will be PFAS-free fire suppression foam or green foam, and that was at the suggestion of some of the consultants we talked to. In 1.15 through 1.18, there are a number of safeguards at the site, and this gets a little technical, but keep in mind that a lot of these suggestions came from department heads at the county, outside experts, our office, and most importantly, very recently, the Water Authority of Dickson County asked for a report from InSafe. InSafe conducted that report, completed it in December, and it came to 8 recommendations within that report. All 8 of those recommendations have been incorporated into these following sections, and I'll just point out some highlights. All data reported to any governmental entity by Titan shall be shared with the county and with the Water Authority within 30 days of the date reported. They will be taking water quality samples in Nails Creek. They will be installing 7 permanent groundwater monitoring wells, and again, sharing that data. Develop and utilize a conceptual site model to aid in the interpretation of the site hydrology, subsurface geology, and hydrogeology to identify potential flow paths to Nails Creek. In subsection D, they shall create a SPCC plan, that is a spill prevention, control, and countermeasures plan for the terminal, and they will submit it for county review and comments. They shall also include the Water Authority of Dickson County for comments, and they've agreed to incorporate reasonable comments from both the Water Authority and the county into the final SPCC plan. Provide copies of groundwater monitoring reports that they provide to TDEC to the Water Authority of Dickson County, and provide summaries of any hydrogeologic assessment or geotechnical evaluation of the terminal property to the Water Authority of Dickson County. They're also going to identify and provide to the Water Authority any karst features such as sinkholes, voids in limestone. In 1.17, they are agreeing to construct a secondary containment dike area outside of the main dike area. That's in compliance with 40 CFR 112.7, which is a federal regulation on this, that addresses containment of fuel. In 1.18, This just addresses two of the NSAFE recommendations that were not incorporated above in 1.15, 1.16, and 1.17. 1.19, Titan will dedicate the right-of-way for the future extension of 2 Mile Road by others as shown on the final plat. In 1.20, they and Buckeye Partners are going to indemnify and hold harmless the county and the Water Authority of Dickson County. Turning over to page 5. In 1.21, in the event of a state of emergency in the county declared by the county mayor or the governor, Titan will assist the county in securing fuel for emergency services in the county. You'll see section 2 there is the only obligation of Buckeye in this, and that they are guaranteeing Titan's indemnification obligations as we just talked about above. In section 3, you see the county's obligations in this settlement agreement. In 3.1, approval of this agreement means approval of the site plan. In 3.2, approval of this agreement means approval of the final plat. In 3.3 through 3.7 are dealing with documents for the SIA that we will cooperate and submit what needs to be submitted to apply for these TDOT project grants. There will be a funding agreement where Titan will be paying for that portion of the road that's not within that grant. It's addressed here in 3.7. You see it also in 3.6 and above. In 3.8, upon completion of the construction of the 2 Mile Road extension in accordance with applicable county and TDOT rules and regulations, we're going to accept dedication. That will be a public road. In 3.9, the county will not take any action that will interfere with the operation of the terminal outside of the terms in this settlement agreement. Obviously, if there's a deviation or violation of the terms of the settlement agreement, that can be enforced per the agreement. In 3.10, the county will support, assist, and cooperate with Titan's efforts to obtain any necessary approvals from the Water Authority in the city of Dickson. In 3.11, the county will provide Titan with a receipt for all donations and funding provided pursuant to this settlement agreement. And then in 3.12 is authorizing, as Mr. Potter talked about before, and I think Mr. Reagan, both the chairman of the Planning Commission and the county mayor to execute the settlement agreement. In section 4, it addresses mutual obligations, and effectively what that paragraph means is that there's a full release by Titan and the county for cause of action against the other. So as it was told to you before, the 2 pending Titan writs would be dismissed. Additional obligations in 5.1, it just talks about how, if there is a breach, how would the settlement agreement be enforced. There are specific performance remedies. There's injunctive relief available. We wanted to make sure to cover all of that in there. In 5.2, I'm just going to read this one so that you're aware. In the event the decision of the Dickson County Board of Zoning Appeals that the terminal was a warehousing facility permitted by right in the M1 Heavy Industrial District is reversed in the case of Lunn et al. Versus Dickson County by and through its Dickson County, Tennessee Regional Board of Zoning Appeals and Titan Partners LLC, docket number 2020 CV 287, Chancery Court for Dickson County, then Titan shall be required to obtain a special exception from the Dickson County Board of Zoning Appeals prior to commencing any operations of the terminal. For the avoidance of doubt, if it is determined that Titan requires a special exception and is unable to obtain approval for such special exception from the Dickson County Board of Zoning Appeals, then Titan's and the county's obligations under this settlement agreement shall terminate, and the Planning Commission's approval for the site plan and the final plat shall be deemed withdrawn. And finally, in 5.3, there is a bookend of time on all of this. If Titan does not commence storage of either diesel or gasoline fuel at the terminal by December 31st, 2024, then the Titans and county's obligations under this settlement agreement shall terminate, and the Planning Commission's approval of the site plan and final plat shall be deemed withdrawn.
Any questions for Mr. Mills? Any discussion? Commissioner Reed?
This all going good, but I think this has been asked before. What happens down the road if Titan decides to leave somebody by, they might, they still
You talking about any type of, you talking about transfer?
Right.
Yes, any new entity would be subject to this agreement.
And just for clarification, just on the road part, I know we've discussed this in the past, but just for the record, the county's not agreeing to any condemnation of any property for the widening of the 2 Mile Road. That's correct?
That's my understanding.
That is true.
Okay.
In 5.2, what exactly does that mean? So if the Board of Zoning Appeals, if it falls under that, then they're saying that everything will be withdrawn. Does that mean that then they will no longer pursue a legal action? If that happens?
Well, and again, as this is saying here, and if Mr. Potter has thoughts, please.
You know, what it's saying, Commissioner Eby, is that please recall that there was a writ of cert filed challenging the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right.
That's not an action filed by Titan. That's not an action that would be settled by entering into this settlement agreement. That was an action that was filed by a group of citizens, Jeff Lunding, the named plaintiff on the style of the case here. And what this is saying is that, assuming the plaintiffs are successful in that action, that Titan would then apply for a special exception to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And if for some reason they were denied a special exception, then this settlement agreement would be withdrawn.
Right, and then could Titan then pursue legal actions again?
I'm sure they would. I mean,
Okay.
look, here's the, again, they would probably appeal whatever that decision is by the Board of Zoning Appeals. It gets confusing because this is administrative law, but, please recall that when this matter initially came through for approval by, of a site plan to Mr. Darnell, Mr. Darnell reviewed whatever information was available to him, and on advice of counsel from our office, made a decision that this did not require a special exception, and sent this matter on to the Planning Commission for approval. That a site plan was approved, and that got challenged, please recall, and it went up to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Board of Zoning Appeals ruled, I think the rule vote was 3-1 to uphold the decision of Mr. Darnell. Well, a lawsuit was filed over that, not by Titan, but a lawsuit was filed over that by a group of citizens. And that is still pending.
Gotcha.
And that will be decided by Chancellor McMillan in Clarksville as well. And so 5.2 discusses that contingency about what would happen depending on what the ruling is in that case. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what is the point of trying to settle voting on this pro or con tonight if all that other is still pending anyway?
Great
Well,
question.
can't it all get thrown out? Or,
It's a very good question. The Chancellor has indicated to council, all involved in this case, that he does not intend to take these matters piecemeal, that he wants to rule on them all at once.
so what we do tonight is not gonna have any effect?
It will have an effect on the 2 Titan lawsuits that have been filed against the county, challenging what happened at the July, planning
Oh,
commission meeting.
okay. I just don't.
It will narrow the issues to be
Okay.
determined by the trial court.
Yes, Commissioner Speiser.
This has no bearing on the judge's decision of the other lawsuits. This doesn't have any bearing on his decision.
This only affects the 2 Titan lawsuits. And if this were approved, they would be dismissed.
Please recall there was a 3rd Titan lawsuit that was dismissed, and that was a writ of cert challenging the weight limits that were imposed. And once that was reversed, that case was dismissed by Titan. So what's still pending is, 2 Titan lawsuits, and then there's, 3 actions that have been filed against the county by,
I may be misinterpreting it. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
Right, so what you would be voting on, if there's a motion, second, and you take it up, what you would be voting on would be to authorize the county to enter into a settlement agreement along with the planning commission that would include those material terms that you have in front of you.
Again, I just got one more question about that 5.2. Okay, so if we approve this, okay, and then something happens on the, on that 5.2 thing, then does that enable Titan to revisit these same lawsuits, or would it have to be a whole different lawsuit that they filed, or what would happen? Does this, what I'm asking is, no matter what happens, does this dismiss those two lawsuits forever?
Yes, Titan could bring an action regarding something else. They might challenge, whatever the Board of Zoning Appeals does subsequent to the court's ruling. But what this is dismissing would be, Titan's, writs of cert that it filed challenging what the planning commission did on July the 23rd. So it gets a little, it gets confusing, and I don't mean to be redundant, but I'll tell you historically, sort of again, where we're at with these lawsuits, without giving into legal advice. When the developer presented a site plan to the planning director, the matter went to the planning commission. And the planning commission voted to approve a site plan. A group of citizens filed a writ of cert challenging the approval of that site plan. They also filed an appeal and argued that it should never have gone to the planning commission in the first place. So it went to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Board of Zoning Appeals had a meeting, I think in early July, and Board of Zoning Appeals ruled, with one member abstaining by a vote of 3-1, that the planning director's decision was appropriate. They upheld it. That same group of citizens filed a writ of cert challenging that decision. So that was action number 2. Then the matter proceeded on to the planning commission again, and I think the meeting was held on, I think the 23rd of July. And at the 23rd of July meeting, the planning commission voted down the site plan because it had been put back on the agenda for them to vote on, and voted down approval of the final plat. Titan filed a lawsuit, 2 writs of cert is what we call them when you're challenging an administrative decision. 2 writs of certiorari from those decisions. So now, then you've got 2 citizen lawsuits and 2 Titan lawsuits, right? Then a weight limit was imposed, and Titan filed a 3rd lawsuit. So now you're up to 5. Group of citizens began filing numerous public records requests with the county, which we've answered many of those. Some of those we denied because of statutory reasons that they required denial. A lawsuit got filed over the denial of some of those public records requests. That has since been dismissed by the court. The weight limit writ of cert was dismissed by the court. So what you would be doing tonight, by approving the settlement, and it is your decision, we're not persuading you to do it. You're the elected officials. But if you do that, you will be giving the mayor authority to enter into a settlement agreement along with the chairman of the planning commission, which would effectively dispose of the 2 writs challenging what happened on July the 23rd by Titan. There will still, as Ms. Hayes pointed out, there still remain a determination by the trial court about what has been filed by Kernville Preservation and or some of those citizens. about those other matters. But the court will be informed that a settlement's been reached as to the two Titan writs, and there's been no court date scheduled for the hearing on these writs yet. And we don't know how the court's gonna rule, but it would certainly narrow what he would be ruling upon, presumably.
But it's your understanding that they're gonna rule, he's gonna rule all of them at the same time?
That's what he's expressed to counsel.
Thank you.
Mr. Darnell, I think you told me that the planning commission voted unanimously
Yes,
in their last meeting to approve the site plan.
correct, to approve the settlement agreement.
So I think if we have one body to vote unanimous on this, I think that we should follow and do the same thing. So I'll make the motion that we accept the settlement.
Motion by Commissioner Simpkins to vote to accept the settlement. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Beatty. Any further discussion or questions of our attorneys, or any discussion among the members? Commissioner Hayes.
Is it allowed that I can abstain? Because I just really don't know which is the right thing to do on this. Can I do that?
I think you can always vote your conscience to
Okay, well,
yes,
I'm
no,
gonna
or
abstain
abstention.
on it then.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams.
I would just say technically under this, really, this should have never come to this body. I mean, the planning commission approved the preliminary plat, and for the people that are familiar with that, is that technically we should have never had to get involved with this. And once they approve that preliminary plat, they pretty much give them the go-ahead. If you read the law, I mean, it states that they have the right to start construction. And I just hate that it had to come here, because I really don't think that we should have had to do this settlement. But the way I'm looking at it is the planning commission pretty much, in my mind, I know they agreed to the settlement the other night, 10-0, but they pretty much approved the site plan and the final plat, in my view. So I guess that's my view of it, and anybody that's unclear about that rule, I mean, that's, and somebody quote me if I'm wrong, but I hate that it come here, because I don't really think it ever should have come here, but that's just my opinion, so I just wanted to state that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments, questions for our attorneys?
Yeah, I'm with him. I don't think it ought to come to us either, because it's gonna cause a lot of hard feelings, and I hope that when we vote to do the right thing, it don't make people, mad at you so bad it's completely out of reason. The only thing we're guilty of is just being in the middle, sorta.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Any other discussion or question of the attorneys?
Will this vote send it on to another meeting, or is this it?
This is a vote for the settlement of the lawsuit. And again, can you state it properly, Mr. Reagan?
Yeah, it would not be another meeting. This vote would authorize the county to proceed with settling on these terms.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Questions for the attorneys? Any questions or discussion? Questions called for. Commissioner Simpkins, you made the motion, so I'm going to have to get that from someone else if there's a call to question. I'm sorry on that.
I'll call for the question.
Questions called for. Any objection for the call of the question? Hearing no objections. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Any other no's beside Mr. Reed? And Ms. Hayes' abstention. Has everyone else voted aye? Let the record reflect that. Next item of business is approval of notaries.
County Clerk's Office has 13 notaries. Susanna Adams, Kathy C. Albert, Lisa Beard Harris, Dina Bullard, Sarah Burdette, Kristen Fielder, Marcia Pfizer, Sydney Franklin, Charlene Harris, Angela Myers, James Nolan, Rebecca Reynolds, and Tabitha Seagraff.
Open the floor for a motion. Motion by Commissioner Buckner, second by Commissioner Reed. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, vote by stating aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Any announcements? I have one, Commissioner Hayes, about someone here. You want to handle that, or you want me to? Oh, you don't know that? Okay.
No, not this time. I mean, I've already mentioned your birthday.
Thank you. And
I wasn't gonna mention that again.
that's old business. We don't need to take that out. We're not suspending the rules of discussion.
One more mention about the ethics department, paper. July 31st is the deadline, and everybody needs to be sure to file that.
Yeah, and if y'all need the information on that, contact my office tomorrow, and we'll get you that. But it's very important you have that filed. And I know historically it's easy for us to overlook, but we need to make sure everyone has those filed by January 31st. Commissioner Reed?
How's Mr. Shepherd doing? I'd just like to know how he's doing.
Had a conversation Saturday with some family on that. He's still, obviously, we know he's suffering from cancer, but he had a severe case of COVID, has been in Vanderbilt now, and I guess this is our second week on that. Understand from the family that he kind of hit bottom on that and seems to be pulling back out of the COVID issues, but all of his other health concerns, and I typically, when someone's not here, I try to check on him tomorrow, so I'll be giving him a call about midday tomorrow, and I'll let y'all know what I hear about that. I know y'all kept him in your prayers, and continue to do so. He's a tough guy, but he's got a tough battle.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Evie?
Yeah, will this be made public?
That is public. That's public record. You can get that, or if you need to get copies of it. I don't know if the attorneys have any more, but we can get copies made if you need to.
I don't know if it's on the website or not.
We typically don't have that, but we'll feel free to distribute to anyone. It is public record, so thank you. There was a really big birthday in Tennessee today, and we've overlooked it, and that's Dolly Parton. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else has a birthday at the same time. That's Mr. Randy Simpkins, so that's an important, him and Dolly Parton, that's it. Commissioner Simpkins, happy birthday.
That's pretty good, they have a birthday with Dolly.
That's it. So let me know how the party comes out with you.
Hey, I've shared that for 63 years.
There you go. Well, good. Good. Congratulations. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Was did someone else raise their hand? Is some other announcement we need to make?
About Miss Greer, how's she doing? Go ahead.
Ms. Greer suffering from COVID, and so she was gone last week. I know she's having to get some extra care right now, but according to everyone in her office, she seems to be fighting it well. So COVID is running rampant around here. So the good news is, and we'll get some of that. One case is bad. One death is actually tragic. So we can't be satisfied with the numbers they are. But today we're back in the low 200s of active cases. We've had some really good weeks, and that's a relative term, so give me some room here about how many cases we have. But coming out of the holidays and everything that was done, I'm not putting a mask mandate for the many reasons we've discussed before, because I think citizens are responsible enough to make their own decisions. It's hard to enforce, and we need businesses to help us, but please continue to wear your mask. And I know y'all are doing it, we're doing it here, we're going to continue to do it in county buildings, but you know, those of us who had it and still feel the antibodies, let's just consider it like wearing no shoes or no shirt into a restaurant. It may not hurt anybody, but it's just rude. So this is a time of the world, try to leave your mask on. We really appreciate that, and I know y'all are doing it. Commissioner Beatty.
Speaking of that, I've heard some not so good news about the health department and the shots. Where are we as far as, I seen somewhere somebody said 2% of Dickson County was, I know my mom and dad are 75 and trying to get the shot, and they're having some trouble. I mean, it's, you know, we're having to call Nashville, and we're having, it just seems like it's a lot of trouble that something could be made easier. I mean, do you know of anything how that's being handled? I know that somebody said they moved it to the fairgrounds or something, but seems like it's just not flowing just right.
I understand, and we're scheduled to have a meeting Thursday with the health department and every other player involved in this, the hospital, nursing homes, a group that we've been meeting pretty regularly on, and try to get some details on it. You're correct, it has been moved to the fairgrounds because at the health department on West End, it was just not enough room to move traffic through thoroughly. It was a lot of traffic backing up down the street. So the good folks at the fairgrounds, Steve Manley and his folks, have allowed us to move there. One of the tents we purchased during early COVID, that's in use. The health department people out there, we're kind of hamstrung with a lot of information we get because I know we've discussed it over time. Even though it's called Dickson County Health Department, it's one of the health departments actually run by the state. Again, this is a concern I've expressed to people, the governor's staff and governor to himself, that we've been asked to make decisions on limited data. And so we've been pretty much at their will. We're asking for things to be looked at in the state legislature. If we're going to be responsible for it and accountable, we'd like to have the authority to make those decisions moving forward. So I hope we're moving forward that. I know the frustration. I get it from my own father, who's 90. So I've heard from him several times. So that's the biggest constituent complaint I can get. Well, and it's part of it. But if you have names, they've also the health department has reached out to the senior center. My wife and her staff are working with them, help schedule things now. So it's like anything of this type. There was a rush. But as long as there's a health concern, anything we can do to help them. But I hope I can give you some clarity on that, and I'll try to shoot y'all an email with some answers probably about on Friday midday if we can get that. But it's a valuable question. But the 1844 number that we put on the Dickson County Government Facebook page and the state health department's put out, that's the number to call. But if there's a long-term problem, we're trying to find the names and see if we can work to get them in there because I know we've had some people that had the first vaccination, they're ready or nearing time for the second one. So,
There's a link up today where you can make an appointment for that second one, because I made my parents one for it.
good. And where did you get your email from, information from on that?
From somebody else that worked at it, made their parents appointment. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, if you don't mind forwarding that to me, and we'll get with the health department on our Thursday morning meeting.
I think they're full tomorrow, but the rest of the week they got some.
And again, we talked about what we could do for frontline workers. You know, again, is the health department, even though it's called Dickson County Health Department, they're state workers. They were not included in this because we can't. But remember them as we go forward, because they were out there in some temperatures the other day that were Arctic, especially sitting at the fairgrounds on that high elevation open plain. I don't know how they did it, how they do their job, but there's a bunch of tough ladies that do that care about their community, that are making that happen. So if you see a health department worker, tell them hi and tell them thanks, because they're doing a tough job. It's a real tough job. Any other questions or announcements? Hearing none, the final announcement will be the next regular session meeting will be on Tuesday, February 16th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the Buford L. Booty Reed Jr. County Commission Chamber of the Dickson County Courthouse, which would now be the Dickson County Administrative Building. Thought you were going to get me on that one. 4 Court Square, Charlotte, Tennessee. To have a motion to second adjourn.